There is a strange beauty in decay. In the peeling paint of an abandoned asylum, in the silent classrooms of a forgotten school. It calls to a certain kind of person, the urban explorer. They seek history, art, the thrill of walking where they shouldn't. But they often forget that when a place is abandoned by people, it doesn't always remain empty. Tonight, we follow three explorers who pushed open a forbidden door and found out what was waiting for them on the other side. An abandoned hospital is a treasure trove for any urban explorer, but some wards hold more than just dusty equipment. The children's ward, with its faded cartoon murals and small empty beds, holds the heaviest silence. And as this explorer discovered, some of its former patients are still waiting to be discharged. My name is Chloe. For almost a decade, I've made a life of walking through the bones of forgotten places. I find a strange, melancholic beauty in decay. But nothing, not the grandeur of a collapsing theater nor the industrial decay of a Rust Belt factory, prepares you for the unique gravity of an abandoned hospital. I'd set my sights on the old St. Mary's Mercy Hospital, a place that had been shuttered for 20 years, a hulking monument of brick and broken glass that the city had forgotten. I slipped through a gap in the fence on a cold, gray afternoon, the kind of day that felt heavy with unshed rain. The first hour inside was a journey through the echoes of mundane emergencies. I navigated dark corridors, my boots crunching on shattered glass, passing overturned gurneys and rooms where the ghosts of last breaths still seemed to hang in the air. Then I found them, a set of locked double doors with a faded, peeling sign, the cheerful font a cruel irony for the words it spelled out, pediatric care. The moment I managed to pry one of the doors open, the atmosphere changed. The air inside wasn't just stale, it was heavier, colder, and carried a profound stillness that felt almost sacred. The walls were covered in faded murals of cartoon animals, bunnies and bears, but 2 decades of neglect had turned their once cheerful faces into peeling, cracked visages that looked more like leering ghouls in the dim light. The ward was a long hallway with rooms on either side, filled with small, rusted metal beds and overturned toy boxes, their plastic contents spilled across the floor like strange, colorful entrails. This wasn't a place of forgotten things, it was a place of profound, lingering sadness. I began taking photos, my purpose to document the decay, the way dust motes danced in the slivers of light cutting through the grimy windows. I was in the center of the main playroom, framing a shot of a single, solitary wooden rocking horse, its painted eyes staring blankly into nothing, when I heard a faint, high-pitched sound. It was a simple, tinkling melody, the unmistakable tune of a baby's mobile. I froze, my camera held halfway to my face, my breath caught in my throat. The sound was coming from a room at the far end of the hall. It played for another 10 seconds, a fragile, lonely tune in the oppressive silence, and then stopped as abruptly as it had begun. I slowly lowered my camera, every sense screaming. My rational mind kicked in, offering explanations. The wind, a draft catching a piece of metal just right. It had to be. I took a deep, shaky breath and forced myself to continue, my footsteps now sounding unnervingly loud on the linoleum floor. As I passed one of the patient rooms, my light fell upon a mobile, shaped like yellow plastic stars, hanging over an empty, rust-stained crib. It was perfectly, unnervingly still. I pushed deeper into the ward, my artistic fascination now curdling into a gnawing unease. I reached the playroom and stepped inside, the air noticeably colder than the hallway. I took a quick, shaky photo of the rocking horse and turned to leave. That's when I heard a new sound, one that couldn't be explained away. A soft, rhythmic creak, right behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my camera. The rocking horse was moving. Gently, slowly rocking back and forth on its own, its old wooden runners groaning a mournful complaint in the dead silence. It rocked for a few seconds as if a small, unseen child had just given it a final, playful push, and then it slowed to a stop. That was it. I was done. This wasn't the wind. This wasn't my imagination. I backed out of the playroom, my eyes locked on the horse, and began to walk, then jog, then break into a frantic, heart-pounding run back down the long corridor. As I ran, a new sound erupted from the rooms I passed. A child's giggle. It was faint at first from a room on my left. Then another joined in from a room on the right. Soon the entire ward was filled with the sound of unseen children laughing, a chorus of innocent, joyful sound that was the most profoundly terrifying thing I have ever heard. They weren't sad ghosts trapped in a place of pain. They were just happy I had finally come to play. I burst through the double doors, the sound of laughter chasing me all the way, and didn't stop running until the smell of antiseptic and decay was replaced by the clean, cold air of the outside world. Some places are forgotten for a reason. Beneath the bustling streets of the city lies a network of storm drains and abandoned subway tunnels. For one explorer, a map promised a path to a hidden, subterranean factory. The map was accurate. It just failed to mention that some of the factory's original workers never clocked out. My name is Marco. For me, the true thrill of urban exploration isn't in the buildings people see every day. It's in the secret world beneath our feet. I specialize in the unseen infrastructure. Storm drains, service tunnels, the forgotten veins of the city. I'd acquired a set of old city utility maps from the 1940s, and on one of them, a strange hand-drawn annotation in faded ink caught my eye. It showed a path through a storm drain system that didn't connect to any other utility line. It led to a large, unmarked chamber labeled only as assembly. My research suggested this was a small, subterranean factory, built in a hurry during the war and abandoned just as quickly when its purpose was served. A ghost beneath the city. It was a perfect target. The descent was a transition into another world. I pried open a manhole cover on a deserted industrial street late one night and lowered myself into the humid darkness. The air was immediately thick, filled with the smell of damp concrete, stagnant water, and something else, something metallic and old, like rust and rancid oil. For what felt like an hour, I navigated the labyrinthine tunnels, my headlamp cutting a solitary, bouncing beam through the oppressive, claustrophobic blackness. The only sounds were the constant, echoing drip of water and the distant, muffled rumble of a subway train, a ghostly reminder of the living, breathing world I had left just a few feet above. Finally, following the brittle, yellowed map, I found it. A section of the tunnel wall was different, newer brickwork, hastily done. Behind a loose section of bricks was a dark, narrow opening, a wound in the tunnel wall. This was the entrance. I squeezed through the tight opening and found myself on a rusted metal catwalk, overlooking a cavernous space far larger than I could have ever imagined. My headlamp beam danced across the darkness, revealing huge, silent machines, their hulking shapes like sleeping iron beasts, all of them cloaked in a half-century of undisturbed dust. This was the factory. I made my way down a set of rickety stairs, my boots clanging on the metal, the sound an obscene intrusion in the absolute, tomb-like silence. The place was a perfect time capsule. Tools were left on workbenches as if waiting for a hand to return. Half-finished metal components sat on silent conveyor belts. It was as if the entire workforce had simply evaporated in the middle of a shift. I was deep in the heart of the factory, admiring a massive hydraulic press, feeling that unique thrill of discovery, that false sense of being the first to see this in generations. That's when I heard it. A single loud clang that echoed through the vast chamber, seeming to come from everywhere at once. It was the unmistakable sound of a heavy wrench being dropped on a concrete floor. It came from the far side of the factory, deep in the shadows. "Hello," I called out, my voice sounding small and foolish in the immense space. Only the echo answered, mocking me. I told myself it was just the building settling, old metal contracting in the subterranean cold. But a new, sharp tension had settled over me. I wasn't just an observer anymore. I felt like an intruder. I began making my way back towards the entrance, moving a little faster now, my sense of wonder replaced by a primal urge to return to the surface. That's when I heard it again, closer this time. A rhythmic, grinding sound. Screech, chunk, screech, chunk. It was the sound of a large, unoiled gear slowly, painfully beginning to turn. I aimed my light in the direction of the sound. One of the main conveyor belts, which had been still moments before, was now slowly, jerkily moving. An inch at a time, its ancient, dead motor groaning in protest. My blood ran cold. The power to this place had been cut decades ago. As I stood there, frozen in disbelief, another machine whirred to life with a low hum. Then a piston on another machine fired with a loud hiss. The air began to fill with the groaning, screeching cacophony of the dead factory coming back to life. I saw movement in the shadows at the very edge of my headlamp beam. Not a person but silhouettes. The dark, vague shapes of men, standing by the now moving machines, their movements slow, methodical, and unnatural. They were getting back to work. I didn't wait to see their faces. I ran. I scrambled back up the metal stairs, my lungs burning, the impossible sound of a fully operational factory chasing me. I threw myself through the opening in the wall and didn't stop running until I was climbing out of that manhole, gasping in the cool night air, back in the world of the living. The map was real. The factory was real. But it was never abandoned. It was just waiting for the next shift to begin. The walls of an abandoned place are its diary, written in spray paint and decay. Most graffiti is just tags and art. But sometimes you find a message, a warning. This is the story of an explorer who found a single desperate sentence scrawled in a dark basement and made the mistake of not believing it. My name is Liam. I wasn't just an urban explorer, I was a connoisseur of forgotten places. I'd seen it all, from military bunkers to abandoned theme parks, and I'd long since become numb to the cheap thrills of ghost stories. So when my next target was the infamous Blackwood Asylum, a place so steeped in dark folklore it was a cliché, I was more excited about the architecture than the alleged hauntings. I slipped through a broken section of the wrought iron fence at dusk, the asylum a sprawling Gothic nightmare against the bruised purple sky. The first few hours were exactly what I expected. I moved through the upper floors, documenting the peeling paint, the overturned beds, and the endless, colorful layers of graffiti from explorers who had come before me. Names, dates, crude drawings. It was all a bit theatrical. The real prize, the place with the darkest reputation, was the basement. The solitary confinement wing, known to the staff as the pit. After navigating a treacherous set of concrete stairs slick with damp, I found myself in the basement. The change was immediate. The air was immediately 10 degrees colder, thick and heavy with the acrid stench of mold and forgotten misery. This area was different. There were no colorful spray-painted tags, no declarations of "I was here." The walls were mostly bare, a testament to the fact that few explorers ventured this deep. The only markings were the desperate horizontal scratches that covered the lower half of the tiny doorless cell walls. As I explored, my flashlight beam cut across a section of wall deep in a back corridor far from the stairs. It was a single sentence, crudely spray-painted in what looked like old, faded red paint. It wasn't a tag. It was a warning. It read, "It's still here. Don't read the other wall." A genuine chill, the first of the night, traced a cold path down my spine. It was creepy, I'll admit, but my rational veteran mind immediately kicked in. It was a prank. A brilliant one designed by another explorer specifically to scare people exactly like me. The other wall? I said aloud to the darkness, a smug, dismissive smile on my face. Challenge accepted. I began to search for this other wall, my flashlight beam sweeping across the damp concrete. It took me 10 minutes. I found it in the very last cell at the very end of the wing, a room that felt colder and darker than all the rest. One of the walls, from floor to ceiling, was completely covered in writing. This wasn't graffiti. It looked like it had been scratched into the concrete with a sharp rock, or maybe a fingernail over years and years. It was a frantic, overlapping diary of a mind coming apart. I moved my flashlight over the words, my initial arrogance giving way to a morbid curiosity. The text told the story of a patient kept in this cell, and a thing that lived within the asylum's walls. He called it the silent scribe, a shadow with quiet feet that was drawn to focused attention. The text was rambling, insane, but I couldn't stop reading. And then I got to the last paragraph. My blood turned to ice. It said the thing was dormant, that it slept in the silence, but that focusing on it, reading its story, understanding its nature was like a whisper in its ear. It was a key that unlocked its cage. The very last line of the scratched-out text, the final word my eyes fell upon, was a detailed 3-sentence description of what the creature looked like. The moment my brain processed that last terrible sentence, the absolute profound silence of the basement was shattered. It wasn't a loud noise. It was a soft, wet, scraping sound from the far end of the long corridor I had just walked down. The sound of something heavy and wet being dragged across the concrete floor. My smugness evaporated, replaced by a primal, paralyzing terror that locked my muscles in place. I hadn't made a sound. I had only read the words. I had pictured the thing in my mind, and it had heard me. The scraping stopped. I held my breath, straining my ears, my heart pounding a deafening rhythm in my chest. And from the darkness, a soft, dry whisper slithered through the air, a sound that wasn't human. It was a single raspy word. It was my name. I didn't scream. I just ran. I fled the basement, the sound of that whisper chasing me all the way to the surface. The warning wasn't a prank. It was a final, desperate message from someone who had made the same mistake I had. Some doors are meant to stay closed, and some words are meant to remain forever unread. The door is now sealed, but the echoes of what they saw remain. For those who walk in the ruins of the world, the greatest danger isn't a collapsing floor or a rusted nail. It's the discovery that you are not the first person to visit that day. If you survived this exploration, subscribe to Shadow Vault Stories. There are always more ruins to investigate. Until next time, stay out of places you don't belong.